And I think it's interesting too, like Senator Farnsworth passing that bill that educates the state of Arizona on EMP, everything EMP basically. What happens though once that is put out on the internet or put into a manuscript and they don't read it? How far do you go to educate our citizens when they don't read something on the internet? Do you have to create certain propaganda? Do you have to put out videos? Like, what do you think will make us so much more aware of what's going on? Do you think it would have to be an attack, or do you think it would have to be something? I know it sounds terrible and I'm not wishing anything, but do you think it would take something so catastrophic for us to open our eyes and say, this is real? Because I feel like if we're just reading a manuscript or something online, we're gonna be like, oh, you know, it could happen. But I almost feel like something has to happen for us. Just like 9/11 was a horrible thing and it was catastrophic, but it opened our eyes to the reality of the world and it got us out of our little bubble that we live in here in America.
That may be the case, because there have been extraordinary efforts to educate the people. Part of those efforts you can see on the wall behind us, even to the point of making movies, you know, to bring people in, to get them educated so that they can protect themselves and encourage their government officials to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. But as a person who was originally trained as an historian, you know, I fear the worst, and that it may take some kind of a catastrophe. But in the case of an EMP, it would be too late if that happens. Mm-hmm. I mean, if it took a Carrington-class geomagnetic superstorm from the sun, if we got hit with that, there'd be no coming back from that if you're not prepared. Mm-hmm. If terrorists did a nuclear EMP attack on us, there'd be no coming back from that. 9 of 10 Americans would be dead within a year from starvation, disease, and societal collapse. And we have an unfortunate history of failing to see, you know, these existential threats, you know, while they're looming on the horizon within the past century. Mm-hmm. You know, you look at, for example, World War I. And, you know, the common wisdom before the First World War, you know, people were asleep to the incredible destruction that would result from the machine gun and trench warfare and barbed wire that had come up. They weren't even aware of that. They thought that the next war would be short, glorious little wars fought with cavalry charges and the like, and weren't conscious of how modern technology had fundamentally changed the war, so that it would basically kill an entire generation of Europeans. Some people tried to raise awareness about that. Some people were excessively optimistic about the technology and said, there aren't going to be any more wars because they're going to be so destructive that no rational actor could ever go into them. And it was a minority voice that was saying, hey, war is not over. Right. You know, we'd better either be prepared to prevent these wars or win them if they happen. And the war came, and millions of people died in World War I, and a whole generation was lost. Did we learn the lesson? A generation later, we had World War II. And the voices were raised again by people, a minority like Winston Churchill, that said technology has changed again, and the future war is going to be different. There's this tremendous opportunity for the enemy to attack us because of the invention of the tank, because of fighter aircraft, because of fast mobile infantry and mobile artillery. And there's this new kind of war that the Nazis are working on called the Blitzkrieg that's completely different from World War I. But people thought, you know, the mainstream view was, well, the next war is going to be fought like the last one. It's going to be like World War I, and nobody wants that again. Nobody could possibly go into that. So we're engaged in arms control negotiations with Germany and Japan, and so they can't want to go to war either. And yet that calculation too proved to be wrong, and the war came, and we nearly lost. I mean, you know, the Nazis nearly conquered the world in a little over a year and a half because of the Blitzkrieg. It was such an effective strategy. And the only reason you know, we didn't lose that war is because average Americans came to the rescue of the free world. People like my father, Frank Pry, and my uncle Joe, who fought the Nazis in North Africa and the fields of Europe. You know, people credit Roosevelt and Patton with winning World War II. No, it was the GI did it with his blood and his ingenuity and his courage to overcome the superior technology and to learn with his blood the tactics of the Blitzkrieg. You know, and so we managed to scrape by. I don't know if we'd be able to come back and make that same mistake now when you're talking about something like a nuclear EMP attack. The consequences would be so catastrophic.